Since its premiere in 2012, The Legend of Korra has been subjected to varying types of discourse in the over a decade that has passed since the show first premiered. Now, it is no secret that Avatar: The Last Airbender is a delight, a critical darling in TV. One that I think even if you've never revisited again as an adult, you have fond memories of from your childhood. And it's also just a show that very much does hold up to the test of time. And I think that after it ended in 2008, there was all this waiting with bated breath to see what the next installment of the Avatar would look like. What would be the journey, the adventure, the Avatar that we were following after Aang? And I think that a lot of people were very surprised by the direction that Bryke chose to go in with Korra. We went from this sweet-tempered 12-year-old boy Aang to this headstrong, vivacious 17-year-old girl from the Water Tribe, trying to navigate this sprawling metropolitan city with cars, with tech, with all of these transatlantic accents. It was a very interesting shift, I think, for a lot of people within the Avatar: The Last Airbender fandom space. Now, I want to make it abundantly clear, I love The Legend of Korra. I adore The Legend of Korra. I will ride for The Legend of Korra. But I also understand that opinions about the show vary, from original Avatar: The Last Airbender fans who feel like the show really does not hold a candle to its predecessor, to other really devoted fans who are very protective of the work because they love the characters, they love the story, and they also acknowledge how important The Legend of Korra was in the space of children's programming, especially when it ended in 2014 and opted to make a lesbian couple, Korra and Asami, canon. Now, I would say I fall somewhere in the middle of these two camps. I have a lot of love and affection for the story, particularly season 3, which I feel like is just fantastic television. But I also find myself feeling really frustrated with the wasted potential in this show and the storytelling and writing decisions that were made that I feel like could have been better. I also know that I'm not alone in feeling that way, in feeling like the show had a lot of wasted potential, and I'm also not unaware of the fact that within the Legend of Korra fandom itself, amongst people who love and enjoy the show, there is a lot of divisiveness, particularly when it comes to the romances. More specifically, the love triangle between Korra, Mako, and Asami, which is a whole video on its own, which is coming. But before we even get into that, I think it's really important to talk about the characterizations and writing choices that were made when it came to all of the members of Team Avatar that were not Korra. Because can we talk about how I feel like they fall really, really short? And I feel like those writing choices contribute heavily to how underdeveloped and half-baked the romances in the show are, at least to me personally. So we're gonna talk about all of them, but for this video, let's talk about our favorite girl boss, Asami. Now, we first meet Asami Sato when she almost runs Mako over with her moped, and from there we learn that she is the heiress to the industrialist empire that is Future Industries, and she is the only daughter of Hiroshi Sato, inventor, engineer, just overall visionary extraordinaire, and most notably the inventor of the Sato Mobile, which are all of the cars that we see throughout The Legend of Korra, especially in Republic City. Now, to make up for almost running him over, Asami takes Mako out on a date to this really fancy restaurant, and in that interaction we learn that even though she is this girl who's grown up with a substantial amount of wealth and privilege, that Asami is very kind and down to earth and humble, and is more than happy to use her privilege and resources to help other people that she cares about, like getting her father to sponsor the fire ferrets when she finds out that Mako and the team don't have enough money to continue competing in pro bending tournaments. And in this dinner interaction, we also get some depth to Asami's character. We learn that she can relate to Mako's story of losing both of his parents to a firebender, because she also lost her mother to a firebender when there was a violent robbery at her home. They also both start dating pretty immediately after this dinner date. Now, Korra is not the warmest to Asami when they first meet due to her own feelings for Mako, but after spending a day on the Sato family estate racing test cars around a track, Korra realizes that she has had Asami pegged all wrong. She's not this prissy, uptight, heiress rich girl that's into shopping and makeup and hair and all of these other nonsense, frivolous, feminine proclivities. Asami is a cool girl. She can race cars, she's an engineer, and she also can hold her own in a fight because of the years of self-defense training that she's been taking since the attack on her home that resulted in the death of her mother. Season 1 also establishes that Asami is a person with really strong moral convictions. We see this at the end of the season season when she opts to side with Korra and her friends, even though that means going against her father, the only family that she has left, because she does not believe in the vision of the Equalists to eradicate bending. And throughout the rest of The Legend of Korra, we continue to see Asami be kind and generous, often lending Team Avatar a crucial edge with future industries, technology, and resources, and also fighting alongside them due to her extensive training that allows her to go to toe-to-toe with most people, bender or otherwise. And we also continue to see her be true to her own beliefs and morals. Now, I love Asami, but I think it's also safe to say that a lot of the influence for her character is pulled from early 2010s girl boss feminism. A beautiful young woman that is more than just her looks, who subverts traditional ideas of femininity by being somebody who fights and likes cars and isn't into, getting her hair done or getting her nails done, is not a new idea. Because obviously Asami cannot be both. She has to be one or the other. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's just indicative of The Legend of Korra being a product of its time, which is also why I think it had a love triangle in it to begin with. They were all the rage in 2012. But I think that the bigger problem with Asami that we see throughout the story is the fact that she does not have one honest to God character flaw, which is kind of a problem when you are a principal character in a story and you are also the ultimate love interest of the main character. When you have a romance where one person, for all intents and purposes, is essentially perfect, that doesn't make for a particularly interesting dynamic story. And that isn't to say that Asami is perfect all the time. We see moments where she's upset, angry, and jealous, like when she is very upset at Mako for the fact that he is very clearly still in love with Korra while he is dating Asami. And we also see her getting upset at Korra at the beginning of season 4 due to her 3-year absence. But I would also argue that reacting the way that Asami reacts in those situations is not a character flaw. It's just a human being reacting in an unpleasant way to unpleasant situations in a way that we all would. And so in this video, I want to talk about how this could have been rectified through making very little change to the actual canonical story. Just ways that Asami could have been given more characterization that would have lended a lot of depth and dimension to her character, which, as much as I love her, often falls flat. To start, I think it would have been really interesting to see Asami genuinely grapple with feelings of loneliness and abandonment. This is a girl who lost her mother at a very young age in a really, really tragic and violent way, and then subsequently, when she is 18 years old, finds out that her father has been conspiring for years with a movement that wants to eradicate all bending. And in choosing to side with Korra and her friends, Asami effectively loses this relationship with the only family that she has left. A relationship with somebody who up until that point she had only understood to be her father, who loved her and adored her. And I think it would have been a pretty natural course of action for Asami to grow more emotionally dependent upon Korra and the rest of Team Avatar in an effort to fill the void that had been left behind by that severed relationship. And I also think it would have been very natural for Asami to feel lonely despite having this support in her life, because she really is the only member of Team Avatar that doesn't have any kind of familial relation. Even though Mako and Bolin are orphans, they have each other. They have this really strong brotherly bond that will always be there. And then Korra has her own parents, and then also has Tenzin and his family, who I would say Korra is an honorary member of. And they're also all benders. They have these things that Asami doesn't. And I think that that would have been really isolating for anybody in the wake of finding out that your only living parent is not who you thought they were. And I feel like if we had seen Asami really deal with this, it would have also lended weight to that moment of tension in season 4 when she is upset at Korra for being gone for 3 years. I also think it would have been really interesting in the wake of season 1 to see Asami being really unwilling to grapple with the reality that her father did this. Not wanting to acknowledge the trauma, not wanting to deal with her feelings about any of it, just seeing her really throw herself into reviving future industries, which is essentially what she does in season 2 anyways, just without the emotional depth. And I think getting to see her her grappling with these feelings alongside working on future industries would have just lended a lot of depth to her journey in season 2, and it just feels like such an obvious writing choice that even saying it out loud like this feels a bit silly. Something else that I feel like was such a wasted opportunity is not getting to see Asami forming a bond with Su Yin Beifong. This one again feels like a very obvious writing choice to me, but I can understand why this wasn't explored more, just because of the length of the seasons, the length of the episodes of Legend of Korra, and also just the massive ensemble cast. I can understand there not being time to have this dynamic, but I think it's a real shame that we don't get to see it. Because you have Asami, engineer, CEO of this massive industrial company that is known for technological innovation, and Su Yin Beifong, somebody who is literally the founder of a city that is known for technological innovation. Like, it just makes sense. In addition to that, you have Asami, somebody who didn't really grow up with a mother figure in her life, and Su Yin Beifong, who loves nothing more than being a mother. I just think it would have been really interesting to get to see the two of them interact in a meaningful way, where you got to see them not only exchanging ideas about tech and innovation, what the future looks like for industry and for Zaofu, but also to see Su kind of become this surrogate mother figure for Asami and offer her support, because at the age of what, like 19, 20, she is, you know, dealing with the fact that she no longer really has communication with her only living parent, her only living family member, and is also trying to revive and rebuild trust in this massive company that has really tanked in the wake of the public not trusting the Sato name anymore. Like that is a huge burden to shoulder. On top of also supporting Korra and Team Avatar when they need her. Like, there was just a lot going on. I think it would have been really interesting to see Asami also grapple with feelings of being overwhelmed and having somebody there to help her. Speaking of Korra, when it comes to Korrasami, I think that is a whole other video on its own, which I will be making. But what I will say for now is that I think it is incredibly unfortunate that Breik didn't feel like they could do as much with Korra and Asami as they wanted to do, due to being restricted by being on Nickelodeon, by being children's programming in the years 2012 to 2014. However, I also think that Asami's lack of character depth, lack of character flaws did not help this dynamic at all. Because when you really think about it, why does this relationship work? And I know that it gets expanded upon in the comics that follow Legend of Korra, but speaking strictly just in what happens in the show, we get told during this gap between season 3 and season 4 that Korra could only really talk to Asami, could only really write to Asami during this time. And why is that? What is so special about this dynamic that these two have relative to Korra's relationships with the other members of Team Avatar? What does each person bring out in the other? And I feel like all of these questions, even marginally, could have been answered a bit better if different writing choices had been made when it came to Asami. But given all of that, I still love Asami. She is a girl boss, but she's my girl boss. It just frustrates me immensely that there could have been very minor changes made as far as writing decisions go that would have just lended a lot of depth to her character, and in turn I think would have lended a lot of depth to Korrasami. But we will talk about that in an upcoming video. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end if you did. This is my first video on this channel, and I feel like I'm still finding my voice, still figuring out how I want to go about this, so leave any feedback you have in the comments. I would really appreciate it, and I will catch you all in my next video.